As I move forward on my healing path, guys, so many memories are coming back to me that's been like buried for years. It was like all I could remember was horrific memories that kept me stuck in a low vibration. As I said before, I think it's important to tap into memories with a good balance. Yes, we have to face those uncomfortable traumas so that we can speak about them and ultimately heal from them and release them. I'm finding out though that it actually makes the process so much more durable when I try my best to remember those happy times. I've been remembering all kinds of crazy happy moments that I had with people that I came into contact with throughout my life. I remember now that being out and about, meeting people and having experiences were some of the happiest moments of my life. Even though my home life was a shamble, I actually did have fun, laughed, just enjoyed myself outside the home. I'm happy to speak on those moments just as much as I'm determined to face the unpleasant moments. I can't stress this enough, guys. Own your experiences. I'm only doing brief overviews of experiences on here, but even with the brief overview, it's still helping me. Now, I don't know if any of you are like me, and it's like you more or less forgot your whole life. But I feel we can't move forward, until we let our past resurface, all of it, and get to healing. It can get a little overwhelming at times, especially when you're facing like those traumas that they feel like they're earth-shattering. Those ones that had a significant impact on your life. But again, when that happens, stop right there. Try to clear your mind and then counteract that with remembering one of the best memories that you can dig up. Just give it a try, guys. It just might help. I'm no doctor, but I am a survivor. Now, who remembers block parties? I don't know if block parties was a New York thing, but I remember block parties like it was yesterday. They had to get permission from the city. They would shut the streets off. They would set up a stage. Everybody would cook. Everybody would just be in the street, in the middle of the street, just having fun, riding bikes. They used to be performers. Block parties was a huge thing back when I grew up, just as much as Labor Day parades. In Brooklyn, Labor Day parades is a huge thing. That's something that everybody waits all year to go to. And no matter how old or young you are, well, I don't know, it got a little bit different because it used to be so nice. Now it got a little bit risque, but Labor Day parades was always a huge, huge thing in Brooklyn. Like, no matter where you are, you come out for the Labor Day parades. I don't know if that's still a thing, but I remember the best Labor Day parades ever. Another thing that I remember is going to the Brooklyn Botanical Gardens. I used to love to draw when we went on school trips at the Brooklyn Botanical Gardens. It was real beautiful. It was a place where it was just flowers everywhere, different kinds, and it was just absolutely beautiful. When you grow up in the city, you don't see a lot of greenery, but in the Brooklyn Botanical Gardens, it was just gorgeous. It was just greenery everywhere, and I used to just like branch off by myself and just go draw the flowers. I used to absolutely love doing that, and that made me think about my first job. Actually, I was a day camp counselor. I was 14 years old. It was my first job. Where I grew up at, when you turn 14, you get what used to be called working papers. I don't know if that's still a thing, but you get working papers and you start working. And my first job was a day camp counselor for kids. It was the best. We used to take them on trips to the park. We used to do arts and crafts with them. And even though I was so young, they were younger kids, so it was still fantastic. I used to love being a day camp counselor. We used to have a good time playing basketball with the kids, football, painting. It was a really good time for the kids who, came to the summer programs. And we just tried our best to make it fun. I really used to love that job. I even remember doing something silly. I had a silly memory. I remember when grown-ups used to come over and they had like their grown-up time, and then we used to have to go in the room. I remember standing on the dresser backwards and like put my arm straight out and just dive backwards. And we used to call it taking a nesty plunge. and we used to dive backwards from standing on top of the dresser onto the bed. Now that I'm an adult, that was kind of risky. Somebody could have got hurt. I'm realizing that right now. Like, somebody could have really got hurt. But that was something that was done all the time. That's actually a good memory of being in the house. And it's crazy because I actually grew up during a time when a lot of like the old school hip hop moguls and things like that, R&B moguls, they were first starting out. So I never really was starstruck because I actually grew up around a lot of celebrities, you know, and they weren't celebrities then. They were trying to come out, you know, they were just getting started. And I even went to school with some, you know, I went to school with the Jungle Brothers, I went to school with Tribe Called Quest. They all went to Murray Bertram with me. I even remember the day that I met Special Ed. I used to actually kick it with his dancer. His dancer and I used to kick it for years and years and years. I remember the day he actually introduced me to Ed. We were walking up Flatbush Avenue and he had to stop off at Ed's house to get something or do something or whatever, or talk to him, I'm not sure. But we went inside Ed's house and he came downstairs and he just introduced me and I just was like, hi, you know, and he said hi. You know how guys are, so back in those days he was like, why don't you hook me up with a friend, you know? That was hilarious. And I actually did. I actually introduced him to two of my friends. The first friend, it didn't work out, but the second friend, they actually kicked it for a while. But that was like kind of normal for me. I did grow up around a lot of celebrities when they were first coming out. I used to go to Queens a lot, and there used to be a spot called Liberty Park, and they used to call it Liberty Jams, and like Run DMC, LL Cool J, all those guys used to come out and just perform, you know. They were just trying to connect with the neighborhood, and I used to go to those. I was young too, but the house was on the corner, so it was easy for me just to walk to the corner and go to the Liberty Jams. And it was like a free concert basically because they were from around the way, so that was nothing, you know. I even remember, oh my gosh, I remember the night when MOP came out and we went to their show. I think it was MOP in Cypress Hills. You know, these things were normal. These kinds of things wasn't something that you would be starstruck with because you would normally see celebrities around the way. They were cool. They were just regular people, you know, trying to get their talents out there, trying to get their music out there, trying to be discovered. They used to sell tapes and stuff out of their trunk. And I grew up in that era. I grew up in the era of kind of like, you know, when hip hop started. So it was never like a starstruck situation with me. It was always like these people were around the way. You could see them in the park, you know, playing basketball, you know, Jiggy and them, you know, you could just see them in the park hanging out, and they were cool. They were really cool guys. But I remember when Special Ed had a birthday party at a club called Step One. That was the party of all parties, and Brooklyn had a lot of great parties, but that was the party of all parties. It was packed jam. It was so crowded. It was so much going on. That party was like the party of the century. I remember that party like it was yesterday. I don't know. These are great memories for me because the majority of the memories that I have that make me smile and make me laugh, it has to do with me being outside the house, meeting people, doing different things, different experiences. That's what it normally has to do with other people that's outside the house. So I try my best to remember these things because the more I remember these things, I don't know, it just takes me back. It makes me smile. It makes me remember that I did have some really good times. I did have a lot of fun. You know, I did interact with a lot of great people. I even remember when New Jack City was filming and we were supposed to go to the filming because they were casting for extras. And a friend of mine from school, she was telling us, let's go. But I was told that I couldn't go. And it just so happened she actually wound up being in the movie as an extra. She was one of the girls that was dancing in the club scene. I don't know, guys. Outside of my house, I really had a lot of fun. I really did a lot of things. I met a lot of people. You know, I used to be super friendly. I used to be extroverted. And that's crazy because the only thing I remember being is introverted. I do not remember being extroverted at all. But I was literally extroverted. I used to be out and about, meeting people, having fun, laughing, joking. It was awesome. It was awesome. And I've convinced myself all this time that I've been an introvert my whole life when I actually was not an introvert my whole life. You know, I actually used to love just going out and about. As I said before, that's when I had the most fun. That's another good reason to try to remember your good times, because maybe there's things about you that you've convinced yourself. I convinced myself that I've been an introvert my whole life when I didn't become an introvert until after I went through a lot of traumas. You know, once the traumas start really piling up, it caused me to be an introvert. You know, it caused me to get so introverted that it turned into agoraphobia. I guess once it got to the stage of agoraphobia is because the traumas were just so traumatic and there were just so many and they just kept piling on that I don't know, I guess I just couldn't take it and I just wanted to be in a safe space, and the safe space was in the house. So especially for those of you out there who suffer with agoraphobia, please try your best to remember all the way back. Sit and think about those memories that you buried and just, I don't know, you never know what you'll come up with. You might come up with some information about yourself that maybe you convinced yourself. I'm not saying that's going to happen. It just happened for me, and who knows, it might just be a thing in your life as well. I even remember going to the park playing handball, tag, red light, green light, 1, 2, 3. I don't know if anybody knows the game Cocolivio. I don't know if that was a Brooklyn thing again, but we used to play Cocolivio, and you grab somebody and you say Cocolivio 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But I remember those things. But of course, I had to actually dive into the uncomfortable stuff. Now, I used to call people out when they're lying. I can't help it. I don't know what it is. I cannot help it. When somebody is standing there lying, and then they even get to the point to where they get angry if you call them out, they get angry if you do not want to accept the lie. I have experienced that my entire life. When I call somebody out, they will literally get angry with me because I simply say that's not true, you know, or I say keep it real or anything, you know. They used to make me leave the room when they talk. In my family dynamic, they used to make me leave the room, and that was okay because I just wanted to play anyway. But it just always used to feel like people were telling secrets about me or something like that. But it was fine, you know. That's something about me that I don't think is ever going to change. You know, now I'm not saying I just blast everybody for every little thing. I don't do that, especially at this age. I know what to say, when to say it, and what not to say. I know what to keep to myself. You know, I'm older now, I'm wiser now, so I know how to discern a situation, because sometimes calling people out is not worth it. Sometimes it causes more harm than good. You know, other times you just, I guess you can say you kind of feel insulted. You know, if somebody is lying to you to your face, it's almost insulting. So you kind of want them to know, like, you don't have to lie to me. You do not have to lie to me. And people always look confused when I call them out because they're wondering, how do I know? But it's the energy. You cannot hide the energy. It is impossible to hide energy. It is absolutely impossible to hide energy. You just cannot. And trust me, people try to hide energy all the time, but you just can't. That's just not something that you can do. And a lot of times people don't like to be around me because they start to notice that they can't hide their energy around me. They can't really lie to me. And so people would rather not be around me at all. It's kind of like, I'm either going to be able to lie to you or I don't want to be around you. I'm not sure why telling the truth is not one of the options, but it just seems like telling the truth is not one of the options. And that is so strange to me because literally all you have to do is just tell the truth. And it's just that simple. I also remember something bugged out. You know, I've never really been to a wedding. I know I was in a wedding at one time. I was the flower girl in the wedding of the person who raised me, and it was that wedding was the craziest thing ever because the groom passed out at the altar. Now, I was a little girl, but I remember looking at the scene like, what in the world is going on? And everybody was kind of like looking at each other like, what? But I remember that wedding was bugged out when he just passed out. When they said, do you take this person? He just said wham, and everybody was like, what? I also remember getting jumped. I got jumped in Albany Projects, and it was because of the person that grew up with me as a sibling. They started it. They started it being a narcissist and not understanding, because they didn't know a lot of people and they didn't understand you have to move a certain way when you in certain areas. I guess they felt like being a narcissist in the family, that works everywhere, but it really doesn't. And for those of you who are familiar with Albany Projects, if you know, you know, because you have to move a certain way when you're talking about the projects. If you're not from there, if you don't live there, if you don't know anyone there, you have to move a certain way. So her mouth got us into trouble, and about 50 people jumped on me. I had a whole mob just tearing me up. I felt kicks, punches, stomps. They snatched my bamboo earrings. They were going crazy on me. It was a lot. And then I looked to the side, and she was over there fighting one person. I was fighting about 50 people, and she was fighting one person. The person who started it was fighting one person, and I was fighting the whole projects. And shout out to my homeboy Bruiser, because Bruiser is the one who pulled me out from underneath all those people and told me to run because somebody had a weapon. And I just took off. I grabbed her and we took off. I remember that because it took me days to recover from the aches and pains of all those stomps and kicks and punches, and it took me days to get over that. But she started that crap, and then when I saw the girls, they were walking up behind her and she wasn't paying attention. She didn't even realize those girls was about to, jump on her from behind. And goofy me, I took off running towards them. I drop kicked one of the girls, and the whole fight just went crazy from there. For a long time, I did not forgive her for that, for starting that kind of problem, because a lot of those girls I went to school with, so it wasn't just around home. Now that means now I have to deal with that when I go to school. So it took a while for that whole situation to get straightened out. It took a long time. Maybe not for her, because she didn't go to my school and she didn't hang out where I hung out. But it took a long time for me to get that situation straightened out. I remember I ran away a few times. I ran away to Maryland. I remember when I moved to South Carolina, I wanted to run away, so I moved to South Carolina. But the messed up part is I moved into one of the houses on the land that my so-called uncle was staying there, and he was an absolute weirdo. I found a hole in the wall that he was peeking through, watching me. I was his niece. Well, so I thought. And he used to watch me through this hole in the wall. When I saw that hole, when I discovered that hole, I grabbed my wallet and I left. I had moved in there and bought new stuff from Finger Hut. Y'all remember Finger Hut? I bought new stuff from Finger Hut, stereo systems, all kind of stuff. I left all that stuff there and just walked out. I just left it there. I'm notorious for that. If something is going on and I'm ready to go, I don't care about materialistic stuff. I will walk out the front door and leave everything there. All I care about is my safety. And I remember that because it was the weirdest thing in the world. And I don't know, guys, that's just not something that a young girl should have to go through, or any girl of any age, or a boy, that your own so-called family member is stalking you through a hole that they made in the wall, and they're watching you. This person was watching me get dressed and all kinds of foolishness. That's the craziest thing ever. And they will come to the family reunions like it's nothing. Sit at the family table like it was nothing, like they weren't a creep. You guys gotta watch stuff like that. I actually remember when I used to hate my voice. I used to hate my voice because I used to be teased that my voice is raspy. And so people would try to tease me, and it made me hate my voice. Now I don't care if I have a froggy voice because I have to clear my throat. Like, I don't care about that. I love my voice now. It's my unique voice, and it's my signature. Anyone could try to duplicate anything about me, but you cannot duplicate my voice. My voice is unique, just like everybody else's. and I've grown to love my voice. But it used to be a thing for me. It used to be a trigger for me. Like, I really hated my voice. And I remember when I got skipped in school. I got skipped from the 8th grade to the 10th grade because I used to be really, really good in school. But once the assault started at home, I started cutting class. I started cutting school. I would just ride a train all day from the first stop to the last stop, cross the tracks, and then do it all over again. I would go hang out at friends' houses. Sometimes I used to go to other people's schools and hang out there. I would do anything just to be away from that house. I would do anything. I don't know. I never had time to process anything living in that house, so I just used to take that time to just travel. I've always liked to travel. I used to take that time to travel and just look at the world as the train goes by. I remember that so much because I actually used to love that. I remember when I got my license, I was like the chauffeur in the house. Nobody had a license but me. So of course, I had to drive everybody everywhere. No one cared if I was tired, if I was sleepy. I had something to do, no one cared. I was just like the designated driver. I would drive in-state, out-of-state. That's just who I became. I started feeling like people were just inviting me places just because I was a driver. And how do I know that? Because once people started getting their license, the invite stopped. Or even if they did have a license, they still invited me. And whether they had a license or not, I was still the driver. I was always everybody's driver. I actually didn't mind it at first until it became like my designated job. It's almost like I didn't have an option anymore. It was like it was expected of me to just drive everybody around wherever they wanted to go. So I'm not going to make this one long, guys. Again, I'm doing this in segments as I remember things, and I'm just doing it little by little because I don't want to overwhelm myself. Oh, you know what? I remember something, guys. I used to sit on the fire escape. I don't know if you guys know what a fire escape is, but I used to sit on the fire escape and just have like thoughts. Like, my thoughts were so vivid. My imagination was so vivid. I used to see myself just traveling the world. That's one of the reasons why I was okay with joining the Navy, because I wanted to travel the world. And I used to just see myself just traveling, you know, places where it was beautiful, places where they had blue, clear water. And it's crazy. Lo and behold, I absolutely manifested that when I moved to Guam. They're about to start cutting the grass out here, guys. So let me stop here. I'm just outside. And as I remember things, I'll be back. I love you guys.